Hello, everybody. Thank you, Natalie, former colleague at Blue Frontiers, who knows that the safest place to be in a pandemic is a seastead. So here's a list of nations with 0 reports of COVID cases as of early April. Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Samoa, Palau, Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, Tonga, Vanuatu. Do you discern any pattern? Almost all the land countries report COVID cases, and almost all the island nations report 0 cases. So if any of you pestilential land people arrive at my seastead in Panama, you have to park your boat on my floating dock. I am removing my gurney bridge, and before you can get on my seastead, you have to dive into the tropical salt water and swim 20 feet, and I'll spray you off, and then you can enter. After every plague comes the Renaissance, and the most famous Renaissance started in Venice. Venice didn't happen on land. People had to exit and found a society in a marsh where the bad governance of Europe couldn't reach them. There were no kings in the marsh. Venice would cure the world of feudalism, and seasteads will cure the world of statism. Better examples are how this happens. So this is a conference full of luminaries with great ideas for city apps to unleash the 21st century. So we're saying, if we could just negotiate for a department inside the Hewlett-Packard building, amazing apps will happen. And Steve Wozniak worked at Hewlett-Packard, but he didn't change Hewlett-Packard from inside Hewlett-Packard. Once they rejected his design for the personal computer 5 times, he left and founded Apple. So forget the personal computer. What about the personal government? This is the Seapod being developed right now by the company Ocean Builders. And land zones require investors, but Seapods require no investors. They're cheap enough that you can go straight to customers. Ocean Builders is committed to making no profit and even running at a loss until they sell at least 20. So if we can flag this thing, we don't need to convince the majority. We just need to convince 1 customer and then 2. Now imagine if each of these had a different flag: Panama, the Cayman Islands. I don't want a startup society. I want thousands of startup societies. We want a swarm of discovery machines. I call them Hayek Islands. At first, they'll be an oasis for libertarians, but quickly they'll become a discovery process, finding solutions that even your favorite libertarian theorist can't imagine. Nicholas Nassim Taleb popularized the black swan, but Tom W. Bell talks about the golden swan, the solutions nobody predicted, but evolution discovers through trial and error. So the aerospace engineer who designs and funds this has developed a new technique, which I named coralcrete. They're going to encase the spar in biorock that grows 3 times as fast as previous processes. Unlike the foundation of whatever building you're sitting in right now, seasteads encased in coralcrete are an appreciating asset at sea, getting stronger over time. Coral gardens. Seasteading is your libertarian solution for environmentalism. So next time somebody asks you if your startup society is sustainable, you can say, sustainability? Man, that is so 2019. We've already moved on to environmental regeneration with Blue 21 and Ventive Float House. Join us. This is how we win. People choose cruise ships without changing their ideology. Your grandparents who think you're a little bit eccentric with your startup society's ideas, they choose to vacation in private governance at sea, and ecotourists will stay on a CB&B, as Titus Gable calls it. As of 2019, we have the marine technology. In 2020, we need the legal technology, which is a seasteading flag. The Seasteading Institute is partnering with Tom W. Bell's company, Archimediate, and we plan to run a seasteading flag registry on the same model as Mongolia or Liberia, where they contract out services to a private company. And here's how you can help. Tom W. Bell and I need introductions to important people in flag registries around the world. In my opinion, a specially designed seastead flag is the holy grail for startup societies. A floating startup society is no threat to local people. You won't get NIMBYism. They're taking our land. No, if you build it, they will come. They're already coming and it's not even built yet. Bad governments are founded on monopoly control of land. This is the technology to decentralize the ground beneath our feet. The technology for voluntary societies. The technology for variation and selection among societies. A research and development zone for better governance. The machinery of freedom to choose. Technology beats philosophy every time. Stop arguing. Start building seasteads. People ask if stories are based on reality. Man, reality is based on stories. 8 years ago, when I learned about the approaching technical feasibility of seasteading, I decided it was the most important thing to be done. So I set out to tell the stories to bring 1,000 times more brains to this and make it happen by 2020. It's happening. Why support nonprofits? Well, why do you think this is happening? Is it because a bunch of entrepreneurs and investors got together on their own and figured out how a for-profit way to do this? They didn't even know about each other until they heard the story. The story is what inspired architect Bart Rofin from Blue 21 to make this picture for free. The story is what attracted French Polynesia, land of startup societies on islands, to reach out to the Seasteading Institute. And the story is what inspired Satoshi. This is the German aerospace engineer who started seasteading in the Andaman Sea off Thailand. And I'll let you in on a little secret nobody knows. Ocean Builders is financed and the single family seastead is engineered by Rutger Koch, who wants to build a launch loop to go into space. And he needs a large swath of the ocean to do it and a large swath of freedom to do it in. He needs Tom W. Bell's Sea Zone, or he needs Tom W. Bell's seasteading flag. Excited to show Thailand how he planned to make them rich, he consulted Thai lawyers. He got permission from the harbor master to build this pilot project. Rutger Koch engineered and built this for $150,000. This is the Motorola phone of 1984. Dumb people say it's ugly. Smart people say it works and it's cheap. It's so cheap you can skip investors and go straight to customers. Ocean Builders has commitments. They had commitments from like a few hundred buyers and a small number of investors for CB&Bs. So Rutger Koch set out to acquire a German flag to grow more seasteads. Then this minor setback caused the number of people signing up, checking, I want to buy a seastead, to triple during the manhunt. Millions of people, and I mean millions, who had never heard of seasteading before, were watching clips of our documentary in the international media. The Thai Navy volunteered to be cartoon villains in this stark morality play happening before the eyes of the world about an innocent young couple in love, threatened with death, and chased by the mighty Thai Navy. The story is what made people choose sides in this conflict. The story is what inspired hundreds of people to help them. And the very same day, the media was breathlessly selling you fake news about the manhunt. This secret picture was taken. The story is what inspired the entrepreneur on the left, Grant Romant, to meet me at the Floating City Conference in Singapore, which is what provided cover for him to get the immigration paperwork. He got the paperwork, he raced out in a speedboat, and he delivered it to the seasteaders who had been on the run for 10 days, low food, low water, low gas. Grant delivered the legal entry paperwork 1 minute before the Singapore police surrounded them with gunboats and fighter jets. Fighter jets were circling overhead while this was happening. That is Rutger Koch facing down the gunboats. Grant Romant, their rescuer who took this photo, is now CEO of Ocean Builders. So why did he pull himself out of retirement to do this? A few weeks before this event, I met him on the plane on the way to Acapulco. I told him the story of Seasteaders. He said, "I'm in with both feet." He contacted Ocean Builders and said, "I'm moving to Thailand." Then after this, he followed them to Panama. He designed the Sea Pod. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. Which is more terrifying, the Thai Navy or a virus? If Chad, Nadia, Rudy, and Grant can turn a military death threat into an opportunity, they can turn a virus into an opportunity. So Chad, Nadia, Rudy, and Grant think you are as creative and courageous as them. So 2 days ago, they told me they want you to be the first people to see their opportunity. You ready to see it? In March, the price of this cruise ship had dropped to $24 million. On April 1st, it was $17 million. Right now, it's $7 million. Ocean Builders think they can get her for $5 million. If that occurs, that's less than $10K per cabin, 640 cabins. You are the first audience to hear about this. They want to staff this with a community of seasteaders to help them build sea pods if they can get investors. They will invite all seasteading companies to join them as they work on securing an ocean concession from the government of Panama. You ready for the big reveal? This happened. On the right is Aldo Antonori, who now works for Zen Cash. He fell in love with the seasteading story, and he let us know that the Panama Canal is the central hub of shipping in the Western Hemisphere, and they have access to 2 oceans 50 miles apart with no hurricanes. To his left is Tom W. Bell, who cut short his vacation at Ephemerisle to fly to Panama and help me present to several government ministries in Panama. On the other side of me is Grant Romant, CEO of Ocean Builders, designer of the Sea Pod. You may recognize the person next to him, who is none other than Circe Pierpoint, who ran the Colón Free Trade Zone in Panama and co-owns the Lytton Bay Marina with Alan Bytel, who is next to him, who last week ceremoniously passed the wine test I propose in the book while floating on the deep water seastead spar in Panama, showing off the fact that the wine doesn't ripple in waves as motorboats pass by. Are Ocean Builders really going to get a maritime concession in Panama? The Panamanian Minister of the Economy and Finance, Hector Alexander, studied under Milton Friedman in Chicago. And when I was eating lunch, actually it was breakfast, at a restaurant across the street from the government building before I presented, one of the vice ministers recognized me from across the restaurant. And he came over and he introduced himself. And he told me he requires all his students to watch my voice and exit talk. Huh? Libertarians have infiltrated the Panamanian government. They know damn well why they got rich. Panama City, 1980. Panama City, 2020. 4 special economic zones. The second largest in the world, next door to this, formerly presided over by Circe Pierpoint, who is my friend now. Look, all the seasteaders together in Lytton Bay Marina, where the 3D printer is now installed to print sea pods. The respectable Circe Pierpoint has completely changed his image since becoming a seasteader. Ocean builders are so devoted to seasteading and the story, they're financing it themselves. They're not taking any shares in their company. And they're committed to not taking a profit or taking a loss until at least 20 seasteads are sold. So who else gets inspired by this story? Right now, the people who made Blue Planet with Sir David Attenborough are pitching the seasteading reality TV show to Amazon. I don't know if Amazon will say yes, but I convinced the producers to host it in Panama with Ocean Builders technology and to invite Blue 21, Vento Float House, all the seasteading companies. We helped them with the casting call, and they're proposing a budget of many tens of millions in consultation with the Seasteading Institute, which they proudly feature on their pitch to Amazon. They're planning the city according to our vision, mobile pods, each featuring one of the 6 great moral imperatives of the book, bottom-up governance. Top-notch team on the project, very serious about this. I really don't know if Amazon's going to say yes. It's on their desk. They claim sometimes Jeff Bezos sees the pictures. And I don't know if I secured or sabotaged the deal here, but I do what I can with a nonprofit budget. And when I approached Jeff Bezos in this getup, he looked at me like I was crazy, and his bodyguards got ready to tackle me. And when I said, "I'm Joe the Seasteader," he said, "Oh, I heard about you guys. We'd be happy to deliver whatever you guys need out there." And we had a big laugh together, and his bodyguards backed off, and we had a nice conversation, and his handler took the book home. And I assume Jeff hasn't read it because he hasn't called me saying, "You're right, Quirk. Oceans first, space second." The story of seasteaders is what inspired donor Jason Dorsett to sponsor getting this book in the hands of anybody who can make this happen. That's you guys. Send your snail mail address to my superstar development manager, Carly at seasteading.org. Rave reviews from Matt Ridley, the Wall Street Journal, Reason, and conference attendees, Titus Gable and Tim Draper himself. You guys, Tim and Titus, you can't get out of it. You're on the book. Who else is inspired by this story? Last week, an award-winning movie composer in Hollywood watched our documentary, The First Seasteaders. She contacted us and volunteered to make music for any future videos for free. Guess what? We can't make any more videos because we're almost broke. Carly and I are in the position of turning down people like her if we don't raise more money. Sorry, winner of the Polish Academy Award, I can't use your free services because we can't afford to make any more chapters of this documentary. Support the storytelling that is driving seasteading in the imaginations of next year's heroes, because this is the immediate future. The ocean renaissance is fast approaching. Please make a big donation. Oceans first, Mars next.